And Kenyan households have been forced to borrow more to maintain their living standards. This is according to data from the 5th edition of the Tala Money Month of March Report. And as Jimmy Mbogo now tells us in the following report, more than 90% of respondents say life is tough but remain optimistic.
For the second year in a row, the Tala Money March Report shows that an increasing number of Kenyan households are borrowing to survive. 59% of Kenyans have been affected by the rising commodity prices, while 41% say they have had to cut back on their expenses to afford basic commodities like food and rent. A third of the consumers note that they feel utilities have increased by over 20%.
And if you think about it, if a customer has been cutting down on their basic expenses for the last 2 years, as we know from the report, there's probably nothing else left to be cutting down. And now that resulted in a new trend that we were seeing for the first time, which is actually a 19 percentage point jump in customers saying they'll borrow more. So just to compare, last year was 46 minus 19, can do the math. But essentially this year it's 46% of customers actually saying, I actually need to borrow to be able to meet my needs.
So what has happened is obviously the economic situation in our country has been declining at a macro level. As a result of that, the consumer will obviously then also have an economic challenge. The role the digital lenders have played is actually a very important one in slowing down the consumer's deterioration.
The report further shows that delays in income is increasingly becoming a challenge for salaried Kenyans, making it the only challenge that increased in magnitude compared to previous years. This has further left consumers prone to borrowing, with at least 36% of them saying they're often stressed about their finances. Only 5% of those surveyed claim to be okay with their finances, an issue that has led to lower savings among salaried consumers.
We're seeing a situation where the expenses are higher than income. So you might find someone has a willingness to save, but they just cannot be able to because they need money for their day-to-day expenses. That said, another trend that I found to be interesting that came out is customers are talking about fear of loss and also trust.
Amid the growing concern over financial distress, the Competition Authority of Kenya, CAK, has urged digital credit providers to see their role beyond providing loans, further urging them to prioritize customer education, transparency, and ethical lending practices. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.